All right, guys, we're live. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We just had a little technical difficulties, but I'm going to wait till everyone, hops on. Log on, wait till Facebook, YouTube, everybody is notified that we are live. All right, right. All right, so we're going to have to wait a little bit. Just wait a little bit, because everyone was waiting. So if you hear, make sure you type something in the comments. Today, we're actually going to have a presentation on how to leverage social media. I'm actually bringing on a very special guest who's actually going to teach this lesson. So I'm going to bring on Autumn. There you go, Autumn.
Hi.
Okay, we cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me.
Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Good.
All right, now Arnetta. So we have my people are on. So Arnetta, introduce yourself, and then you can get into your wonderful presentation that you put together for us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Autumn Arnett. I have 15 years of communications and media experience. I'm the owner of a company called XanJo Media, named after my wonderful children, Alexander and Jordan. Together, they're XanJo as a unit. And we are going to talk about social media branding for your business today. So let me see.
Awesome. You share screen at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Hold on. It should have just came up. Okay. Can you send me the link real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Do we see it?
Yes. It came up.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right. I can't see both.
You got to go to that screen where um the screen where you got your slideshow in. So when you hit share screen, when you
I
hit
can't
share
see
screen,
the people who are in. Are they able to?
oh no, I can see them, but when
Okay,
I'm going, if they ask questions and stuff, I'm going to relay it to you.
perfect. And I have built in a couple of like think and share sessions.
Okay.
Should I modify that so that can folks talk or is it listen only?
Oh no, they can. I can relay it. I can relay whatever you want.
Okay.
If that's okay.
All right. So let's get into it. The goals of social media use for anybody that says, just researchers, but your professional goals for social media use are establishing yourself as a subject matter expert. Let me slow down and wait for the slides to. There we go. Okay. Establishing yourself as a subject matter expert and building a professional brand around the expertise. So, for example, I maintain personal pages on social media where I talk about my children and share pictures from my grandparents. But on my professional pages, my expertise is really in education. So all of the content there is really kind of supporting why folks should listen to me in education. So similarly for you all, your content wants to support why people should pay attention to what you have to say. The goal number 2 is staying on top of news and information in your industry. And number 3 is building community, which is super important. I think a lot of us are good at the disseminating information part and not as good at the building community part, the getting two-way engagement going with your audience.
Absolutely. That is a problem that we have within the notary community is just people don't want to build the community, with amongst each other and network with one another. And, that's my goal with my platform is to get people to network and to know that we can network and still do this business together. So okay. Everyone says hello. We have people in here from Virginia. Who else? I seen some New Jersey. So we have a few people here to watch.
I'm an East Coast girl, so that makes me happy.
Yes, same here.
Let's see, originally from Maryland. My family's from DC, but I say I'm from Maryland, and I lived in Jersey for a little while. So.
Yeah, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yay!
Oh, we had somebody from Iowa.
Okay. So the second part here is identifying your audience, and that's super important because knowing who you're talking to lets you know what type of content you should give them. So I just want to get some feedback from you all. Do you see your audience as being each other mostly, other notaries, or do you see it as being the public, or do you see it as being kind of both? Like, who are you hoping to talk to?
Well, most notaries are actually looking to talk to people like escrow agents, people
Mm-hmm.
that work at the title company, um, sometimes lenders, real estate agents. Those are like they're pretty much that audience of that they need to talk to. Some of the signing companies who work with title companies. So, and then this amongst each other, but that's pretty much our network.
So primarily folks who can refer you all for services, right? That's
Yeah,
primarily the goal here.
yes.
So I like to break out the audiences based on platform. On Facebook, I always talk about the difference between a personal profile and your public figure page. Again, I have two pages, both with Autumn A. Arnett at the top, but one of them is mostly for my grandfather because he steals all the statuses and pictures of the great grandchildren. And to build community. I just moved to Austin, so I used Facebook heavily on my personal profile to just connect with other people here, to try to meet like-minded folks, other parents. That's the personal profile. On the public figure page, though, it's more public facing, right? So it's all professional. There are no pictures of children. I'm even really cautious about what I'll post as a status, what I'll have an opinion about, because that's where your bread and butter comes from. So for you all, same deal. If you have
Right.
a public figure page, that is where you want to, not share articles about president or not call the governor stupid for his
Right.
handling of COVID, right? That's where you want to be pretty conservative in your commentary. Um, on Twitter, again, we're only talking about public pages. I know some folks use Twitter privately, but that's kind of the same to me as a Facebook personal profile. You don't really have to talk about that in the branding session. Your colleagues, so each other would be your folks on Twitter. I also use Twitter as a source for news. So I use it to follow and figure out what other people are doing and talking about in the industry. The really nice thing about Twitter is that you can follow hashtag conversations. Um, and then again, the agents. Uh-oh.
Oh, you about to go back to LinkedIn at the
Okay.
bottom?
Before I meant to, yes, I did not mean to.
That is a platform that a lot of notaries use, and they actually kind of use that platform to network with people that work at the title companies, escrow agents, and real estate agents like that, and that matter.
So same deal. I think of LinkedIn as like a condensed public CV or resume, right? So this is where you'll brag on your accomplishments. This is where you'll post articles relevant to the mortgage industry or new regulations, right? This is where you want to share information that is useful to other people in particular. One thing that I always caution is to remember that there's no such thing as off the record. Anyone can access your posts at any time, even if you delete them. People can screenshot them or use like the Wayback Machine. So be very careful about what you're posting in public. Again, members of the media, your boss or competitors, just random people who have time on the internet to find issue with anything you might say. So be super careful. And I don't mean that as a caution. I think some people take that to say, I just won't say anything. People want to connect with you and your brand voice, and they want to know who you are, but you just want to be cognizant of making sure you remember that not everyone thinks the way that you do.
Right. So what kind of thing? I mean, normally I go off of people should just avoid the conversation of religion and
Mm-hmm.
politics. That's just how I always feel with everything, across the board, unless you and that person really has a personal, close relationship.
I think even if you have a close personal relationship, just don't do it. Uh,
Right.
Again, anything that you could get in trouble for later. And I would even, I'm hesitating here because I think that we're in a different time, but I would even steer clear of sharing things like things that could be seen as controversial. So things that are particularly charged around race, right? I
Right.
would do, or you could do studies that show how lenders still discriminate against people of color. I think that's fine because it's not your opinion, right? You're just sharing a study that someone else produced. But I
Right.
wouldn't share protest information or retweet or like, even like, because likes are public. People can see those information about, you know, where you might be going on the
Right.
weekend. We'll get into a little bit more in the last section. We'll get into a little bit more of what types of things we should share. But I want to spend some time talking about and identifying like what everyone sees as their brand.
Yes.
So I want us to take 2 minutes to think about who you are and what your 200 character intro bio should be. So again, you want to keep your audience in mind. You want to figure out what defines you, what you want people to know about you immediately, what's important to you, how would colleagues describe you, what are your core beliefs and interests. I think it's really important to have a piece of yourself, right? Because people relate to people, but avoid being too much yourself. So, for example, if you are in a very conservative state and you are a Christian, it is probably safe to share inspirational content, right? Or Bible verses. It's probably safe in like a North Carolina, even a Texas. Um, if that is what you want people to know about you immediately. I would not try to attach any opinions or testimonies or anything like that, but it's probably okay to use them as quotes. Maybe you really like, I was going to say tea, but I don't think you sharing your favorite cup of tea or your favorite tea mug is necessarily relevant to your industry. But maybe if you have a new mug and you can post, you know, the new inspirational saying on the mug, that and somehow tie it into what you do, then that's relevant. But you want to figure out what pieces of yourself you're okay with letting the public
People know.
right. So for me, I'll give you the example of again, my expertise is in education, but for a long time when I first started, I didn't want anybody to know that I was married or with children, right? Because I thought that having a family was seen as a weakness in the workplace, and I didn't want people to think that that would take away from my ability to produce good work and, you know, take things on. And it wasn't until about 2015 when my children were 7 and 5 that I realized that actually, you know, being a parent and having a vested interest in education go hand in hand and they make sense, right? So I don't share a bunch of stories, but occasionally we'll talk about what my 6th grader wanting to be an engineer if I'm talking about representative curriculum or something
Right.
like that. So figure out what pieces of yourself could enhance your professional brand. Let's take 2 minutes and jot down a 200 character intro bio. And 200 characters, not words, just really short, couple sentences. And I will start the stopwatch.
Well, I don't think no one's. Let me see. I gotta type that in there. Can you put that slide back up that you had?
Yes. I keep wanting to see who I'm talking to, and I can't. So I keep
Well, no one's
saying,
commenting on anything. But you what you can see is if you go on your if you go on Facebook and go on another institution on your phone, you'll be able to see it.
got it.
So this is something that really they can actually use because we have notary profiles that we create, and a lot of people when they first starting off, they don't have any experience or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what to write. So this is something that they could write, you know, knowing who they're writing to, what
Mm-hmm.
defines them, you know, related to the field that they're actually, you know, working in, identifying, you know, the important things, values to them, and I this is something that they can actually just type in their profiles. So no one actually, people just commenting what states they're from. We have Pamela, but no one had typed anything just yet.
Okay. And I tell people that the things that I think are universal, right? Because again, people connect with people. People want to do business with people they feel like they know, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I tell people, what sports teams I cheer for, and that'll at least let people say, "Oh, tough loss for your Nationals yesterday," or give me something to start the conversation with. People know that I listen to jazz, right? None of these things have anything to do with being an education expert, but these are things that people can start a conversation with, and
Mm-hmm.
or right, they feel like, oh, I actually really like that song too, or oh, I can't stand that team, and my team spanked your team yesterday, right? But it gives you, so again, in places like Alabama, I would avoid, or maybe not avoid, depending on how you're feeling, taking a hard stand, Alabama versus Auburn, because you might alienate some clients. But in Maryland, it's probably safe to say go Terps. So again,
Right.
kind of knowing your audience and whether your allegiances will be controversial in your town,
Right.
but also giving people something that they can latch onto and connect to on a human level as well.
Okay.
So I will move on, unless you have something in the comments. Do you have?
No.
Okay.
No, just someone typed where they was from.
All right. So this is another one that I wanted us to kind of work through, but I'll just leave it up for a couple minutes. Um, I want folks to take a few minutes to think about your intro and bio and kind of build out your brand. So you wrote maybe a sentence or two in the first exercise, but here you really want to build out what that means, right? So what kinds of comments and information can people expect to get from you? Do you want to be inspirational? Do you want to be informative? Do you want to be someone who is seen as willing to travel anywhere? Like, what kind of content do you want people to expect from you? And you really want to think very intentionally about that, because you want to stay on brand, right? Like, I would never post a cat video, because cat video is not consistent with the things that I said people can expect from me. People can
Right.
expect education content from me. They can expect that I like jazz a lot. So there's some music festival stuff sometimes. And I am a fan of Nationals baseball, Washington Nationals baseball. But we really kind of stay in that lane if I'm not talking about my actual expertise. So you want to think really, really intentional about what types of things you want to feed into your brand and really stay on brand.
Right.
What kinds of conversations can people expect to engage in with you? Again, are you the touchy-feely person that people can come to if they're just unsure and they have questions they want to talk to? Are you the person who's more matter of fact? Like, what kind of tone do you want to set? You want to make sure that your brand has a voice that's authentic, that you can maintain, and that's consistent with who you want to be known as publicly. And then what kind of interactions will you seek out with others? Are you, again, looking for people to come to you with information? Are you going to people for information? Are you going to people to build community? What are you going to share best practices? Like, what kinds of things are you looking for other people? So you really, really, really want to think very intentionally about these 3 bullet points as you build out your brand and what people can expect from your pages. I didn't mean to keep cutting you off. I'm sorry. I can't see that you're
Oh,
talking.
no, I didn't say nothing. I didn't say anything. I was just saying, okay, I didn't say nothing.
Okay, so I'll leave this up for a second and then I'll move on. It's long enough for people to get the questions down.
Okay.
Okay, so in channel differentiation, this is where we get to like refining your messaging based on the target audience. On Facebook, that's where you can be less formal. You can share your personal and professional milestones. So if you just finished another licensing exam, if you just took on another major professional partner, announcements, like maybe you're moving to another state and you'll be doing business there. If you're adding services, those are all things that are appropriate for Facebook. You can share anecdotes and stories. Facebook's a really good place to tell stories. Again, you don't want to tell stories about your cat if that's not what you decided was going to be part of your brand. But maybe it is, right? Maybe you decided that this pet of yours is what people are going to relate to about you, and that's fine if that's what you decide. But you want to tell stories that you can somehow relate back to the business.
Right.
People also appreciate, I don't have this on here, but people also appreciate stories where you're struggling and you came out on the end, or maybe you're still in the middle of it and you're just encouraging yourself and others, right? Like people appreciate knowing that you're human and knowing that not everything is poised and together all the time. You can also share articles of interest, usually written by others. But again, you want to steer clear of political commentary. Feel free to share news or studies that you think are relevant.
Okay.
Twitter has the least formal tone because the nature of Twitter means that it's almost gone right from folks' screen in 20 minutes. So Twitter is where you can say, I wonder, or I think, but again, stay in your area of expertise or your established brand. But if you can say, I wonder what would happen if the industry took on this, or I read an article about that, and I'm wondering what people think, right? Like Twitter is a good place for those quick thoughts that are maybe not fully formed.
Mm-hmm.
Good place to share articles written by you or others with things to think about.
Okay.
Question? No? So if you have a blog, Twitter is a good place to post it because it's easy to share. Facebook now regulates content that is not native to Facebook. So the way that the Facebook algorithm works is if you made the post directly to Facebook, it's more likely to show up in people's feeds than if you posted it on your blog and then posted the blog post to Facebook. Facebook is constantly changing like Google. It's the most popular, but also the most difficult to pin down. And then again, comments on current events, but you want to steer clear of politics and religion.
Right. And this is on Twitter, correct?
That's still Twitter.
Okay.
LinkedIn is the most formal tone. Again, you want to treat LinkedIn like every post is an answer to a job interview question. You'll share your professional milestones and announcements and awards, articles representing thought leadership. So not just articles that you think are interesting, but articles that really give people takeaways or something that they can implement. And then comments related to major news impacting your field. So again, if there's major real estate news or major banking news, then LinkedIn is a good place to share it, just as an FYI to your colleagues.
Okay. So we have a question. Here it is. Which platform do you think is best for marketing services while building relationships? Crystal,
I think Facebook, and I don't have Instagram on here, but I think folks are using Instagram a lot more too.
They are.
Have Instagram on here is because it's much easier to type out a post than it is to create compelling graphics for people. But Canva.com, CANVA, has a lot of templates that you can use. It's free, and it's a good way to get your word messages on a pretty graphic that you can post on Instagram. So those are the two that I would most recommend. Again, I think that for your industry, a lot of folks are also on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is much more formal and it's much more like an ongoing job interview online. And so if you really want to kind of be yourself, Facebook and Instagram are the ones that I would recommend are best.
Okay.
So again, this ongoing idea of refining your brand, right? And making sure that everyone or everything that you do feeds into what you defined as your core identity, your core professional identity. Social profiles are your dynamic but front-facing introduction to the general public. Again, I continue to caution to remember unintended audiences. Even if you don't include, like if you have another full-time job, even if you don't include your other title or affiliation, people can very easily Google your name and comments can come back to harm you. So just be very cognizant of the fact that everything you put out there is permanent. Everything you put out there is discoverable. I have over here, though, a quick Google search of myself just to show you how prominent social media is when people Google your name to figure out if you're credible. The first thing that comes up when I Google my name is my actual website, but the second thing that comes up is my Twitter profile. And then the third thing that comes up is my LinkedIn profile, right? So you want to make sure that if you are starting a channel, that your content is consistent, that it's really reflecting who you are, that you don't have profiles up there where you haven't posted since 2014, that you don't have profiles up there where in 2014, the last thing you posted was about your dog, right? Like you want to keep them current. You don't want to start more profiles than you're going to maintain. I think a good pace for posting, a lot of people want to focus on posting daily. I don't think you have to post daily, but you want to post twice a week, at least. Your audience needs to hear from you at least twice a week. There are studies that show that greater number of posts does not necessarily equal greater engagement, right? So you want to focus on quality of content over quantity. You want to make sure that it's stuff that people can actually do something with, or stuff that people can actually relate to, and not just that you're posting to meet a quota. But again, you want to find the balance and not allow it to just go unposted. And then I have my website, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, Muckrack, my blog, and then my 2 Facebook are the next 2 things. So again, just the importance of social media when people are trying to figure out who you are and if you're credible and if they want to work with you. These are the things that come up first.
So let me ask you a question. I do have a question.
Sure.
So in the back end on Facebook, on your personal profile, you can actually hide your personal profile from Google.
Yep.
From showing up. So
I think both of these are my public. Yeah, so see, this one here says public, and this one here says page is public figure. My personal Facebook is not here in the search.
Okay. So people, if they wanted to post something, do you think they should still post anyway because they can't be found on Google?
I think that depends. If you're talking about on your personal page,
yes,
depends on how well you know your friends list, right? Like, did you join Facebook in college and you just accepted everybody who you thought was cute in a different city? Or are you like my mom, who has just accepted everybody who she might possibly recognize the name, whether you talk to them in 30 years or not, then maybe not. But if you actually know and interact with your Facebook followers and you, so for instance, on my personal Facebook profile, I'm really good at unfriending people who say things that I completely disagree with, right? So we had a lot of racial sensitivity this spring, summer, and I didn't have any foolishness in my feed that was going to incite me, because I've done a good job of making sure that my Facebook followers are kind of, it's an echo chamber, right? Social media is an echo chamber. So my Facebook friends are people who are kind of like me, and I engage with them and I mostly know who they are and I feel safer posting things. But if you post publicly, you also want to make sure that your privacy settings on your posts are not public. I'm really good at filtering out and blocking individual people from posts, right? So if you're using all of those functions, then you can be a little bit more relaxed. But if you don't necessarily know who most of your friends are and you're posting publicly, then I would still not do that, because somebody could always screenshot it. And even though it's not Googleable, now that person has a screenshot and they can post it on their public profile, you know.
Right.
Get into that.
Entire mess. Well, we do have a question, but that would be something I would really have to show her. She asked how to hide your page from Google. I believe it's in settings on Facebook and privacy, but they updated so much, so it's hard for me to walk you through it right now.
I can, when I finish the presentation, if we have time, I can stop screen sharing long enough to log in and find the screen and then come back up. Or you can show her later if we don't have time. All right, continue. Okay, so strategy. Because I'm very much a person who wants us to have strategy first and then act, rather than act and figure out how it fit into the strategy afterwards. I really want folks to be thoughtful on the front end about who am I, who do I want people to see me as, what do I want them to hear from me. So my strategy is a 3-pronged strategy. Establish your voice. Let's see, the bubble going deeper. Yes.
Oh, you're welcome, lady. Unique.
Be authentic and human. Your voice should mirror the tone you'd use if you were talking to people in person, right? So you want to make sure that that your page sounds like you. You don't want to be super staunch. I use the example of ironing with starch, right? You don't be super starched, and then people meet you and you're just as silly and fun loving. You want to kind of keep the tone consistent. But the other thing that, and I kind of alluded to this early, don't hide your framework, intersections, and experiences. Remember that your lived experiences are greater than anyone's research. And I think this is really important, especially right now, right? Whatever your experience is, like whoever you are as a person. For example, I have a friend who has a son who's transgender and transitioning. That impacts how he approaches his work and how he approaches people, right? For me, I'm a Black woman with Black children, so that impacts how I approach my work and impacts how I approach people. Don't be afraid to be that person. Like whatever your intersections are, whatever the things that you bring with yourself, like be those things. Not everybody is your client, and that's okay. But people will appreciate being able to resonate with those things in you, right? Like you might be able to help somebody by not hiding your truth.
Absolutely.
And I kind of glazed over that. I didn't spend much time because this is a branding presentation, but that not everybody is your client thing is so important. I tell clients that all the time, like we all want, to make the maximum amount of money, right? And especially if you're a full-time entrepreneur, we don't like turning business away, but not everybody's a good fit for you. Not if people are going to work your nerves or people are going to stress you out or their core beliefs don't line up with your core beliefs, then that person is not for you.
Right. That's exactly what I tell a lot of the notaries, because the signing companies, sometimes, they offer really low fees or, they want you to do a lot of work, but they don't want to pay.
Right.
And I tell, my students, you really don't have to work. If somebody's not going to pay you what you worth, you don't have to work with them. It's not a big deal. You don't have to take on, every single assignment just because, they providing it. There's plenty of other people that's providing the same thing that you need.
And sometimes for the amount of time that you're going to put in, right? Like you just have to think about, am I going to put 10, 15, 20 hours into this thing and make no money back that I could have been out chasing other leads or I could have been investing in myself or, sometimes you just kind of have to think about the return ratio and whether it's actually worth it.
All right.
My second thing, and I've spent the entire presentation talking about this, but stay on brand, right? Don't try to weigh in on every conversation or current event. Social media is not your vent space. It is not where you just need to clear your chest. That's why we have friends and partners in real life, right? It is not necessarily appropriate. One of my girlfriends posted something today and I thought it was poignant. There's a song out by Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B that I haven't heard yet, but my girlfriend posted, some of y'all are telling on yourselves with your opinions on the song. Like not everything has to be shared. And I'm a firm believer in that, right? Whether it's that extreme or whether it's something that happened in your business, like not everything belongs on social media. Not every current needs your commentary. If it's within your lane of expertise or what you told people they were going to hear from you, absolutely comment on it. But if it's outside of that, don't feel compelled to weigh in. Again, in my professional space, you got Nationals World Series commentary because I told people they were going to get Washington Nationals baseball from me, but you don't necessarily get what's happening with the NFL because that is not part of what I said my professional brand was going to be. So the NFL being bad at race relations is not showing up in my professional spaces because that is not who I told you I was going to be in my professional spaces. Be cognizant of how every comment reflects you or your employer or your work. Again, even if you're commenting on somebody else's post on somebody else's page, right? That gets even more sticky. Every like is public. Every retweet or repost or share is public. So just be very careful of how other people's posts reflect back on your brand. And remember
even the Facebook groups too.
Even the Facebook groups, yes. Even though Facebook groups are closed, same deal. Like people can screenshot, they can post it elsewhere. No place is completely safe from scrutiny. And again, remember the ultimate goal is to be seen as a subject matter expert, as credible. You don't ever want to let your witness or what you're putting out there damage your credibility. Because the only thing you have is your name, right? And if you muddy your name, then you don't have anything else to go off of.
All right. Lady Unique said, thank you. This is good information.
Thank you. And then my last note on branding, is this going to clear up a little bit? Is to engage in two-way
Oh,
conversations, right? You don't want to just be talking at people all the time. You want to make sure that you're getting to know people too. More important than who you already know is connecting with people that you want to know, connecting with people with similar interests. Comment on their posts, even if you don't know them. Like them, solicit their opinions. Utilize hashtags in the people you may know section. And again, the easiest way to connect is to connect on something else. If you have a favorite brand of tea, or a favorite coffee company that you're talking about, or your thing is that you want to support Black owned businesses, um, comments on other people posting similar content, and that will give them personal connection. Again, super important. People like to connect with people. That'll give them something that they know they talk to you about, and then when they're looking for a notary to refer, they can say, oh, actually, this woman that I was just talking to about Black restaurants in Austin, she does that too, right? So make sure you're not just pushing information out constantly, not constantly trying to sell yourself or a product,
right.
and sure that you are genuinely having genuine connections.
All right. Have a great conversation. You're absolutely right about that. I do think sometimes what happens in a lot of people businesses, they just want to be quick, and get, the customer, but they don't want to realize that you have to build that relationship. And the only way to build that relationship
Right.
is to, engage in two-way conversation. So we have a question from Lady Unique. How do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
use hashtags?
Hashtags are used to group like posts together. So, for example, if you are Notary Public, hashtag Notary Public is a really popular hashtag. I searched and tried to find you some good brand bios to include in the presentation, but I didn't find any that I was super impressed by. Um, but if you use the hashtag Notary Public, that lets anybody who's looking for anything about notaries find your post, right? If you use the hashtag, again, I keep going back to baseball. I'm very excited that baseball is back, in case you could tell. If I use the tag
Oh,
Go Nats, right, then any Nationals fan can find that post. But the other thing you can do is you can type the hashtag into a search bar. So if you're say looking for people to connect with, or you're looking to see what other people are saying on a topic, you can just click the hashtag if you see it in somebody's post, or type it into the search bar, and that'll kind of filter all of the content with that keyword together for you.
okay. So hopefully, I think, lady, I believe you answered her question. We don't have any more questions, anything, I guess, about branding and social media. Um, a lot of the audience is older audience. They don't really use computers, or they don't really know how it works. As far as like with technology sometimes. And sometimes I think they do get a little nervous about getting on social media, because they're not sure on what they can actually post. They don't Some of them don't realize that, you could post something and everyone can see it, and I think it's important, like you said, people need to be mindful of what they're posting on social media.
I'm going to go through and see if I can just really quickly show you Facebook privacy settings. If I can get it to.
Okay. Okay. Yes, she said you answered her question.
Um,
Okay.
but
Working
yeah,
on my social media now.
perfect. I talked about having this abundance of caution, but you don't want to let being cautious keep you from engaging, right? Like, these are really important tools to help build relationships, to help promote your business, to help promote yourself as an expert. You definitely want to get on and engage. You definitely want to build authentic relationships. You definitely want to be your authentic self. So I don't want it to seem like all of the caution that we're putting with this
I think you're going in and out.
is to keep you from getting on. It's really important to use the platform, right? Social media is a free advertising vehicle for you, but you do want to be mindful that even if you think you're only talking to a certain group of people, am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You kind of like froze, but I heard you talking.
Hear
We
me?
have some people here. Yes, can you hear me?
No.
Your sound, it's like you like went in and out.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Let me see. I can hear you.
Yes. Is it better? I haven't moved.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
back.
it's
It's
better?
still like
Okay.
well, she can hear you. They said they can hear us. So
Shut down the first tab.
someone had, let me see.
Okay.
He said,
Did you
should
say we had
use your
another
logo?
question?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
No. Okay. So I would not use your slogan because it takes up extra words. If it's a short slogan, you can make it its own hashtag so people can click, hashtag be great today or whatever the slogan is. And that way people can click and see all of your content. I would put your logo on every picture, just kind of in the corner, every picture that you post on Instagram.
Okay. All right. So your sound is like going in and out when you talk, and it's like freezing a little bit.
Can you hear me?
But that is we at like 45 minutes. So I don't see any more questions. Let me see. No, I don't. But Autumn, thank you. No, thank you very much for this presentation. It was a lot of good information in here that these notaries can use and apply to their social media platform.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll type my email address in the comments if you have any questions that you guys think of later. Happy to be helpful. If you're trying to figure out how to set up your profiles, let me know.
Okay, I hope we have this question. Can you see the question?
What you got?
Okay, so it says, should you
I
use your
cannot.
photo or logo on social
Oh, there it
media?
is.
Oh, I just took it down.
I think that is, you mean in your profile picture? I would use your logo.
Yes. Well, for that business page or most probably for that business page, most likely which one should they be using? Wherever they're running their business from, they want to know, should they use their logo or should they use their photo?
So I also think that depends on, are you calling yourself like Lady Unique's Notary Services? It depends on what you're naming your page, right? So if your name is in your page, go ahead.
I think first of all, everyone should just have two separate pages anyway. So if you had, like you said, you should have your personal Facebook page, this personal Facebook page,
right?
And whatever you post on there, make sure it's not public. And then you'll have your business page. Now on your business page, definitely use your logo. If it's your personal page, you can use your personal page. If you're using, some people try to use their personal page, for their business, and they want to place their logo on there. But the thing is about using that personal page, you're not going to reach as many people. And like she said before, with the brand, people want to know who's behind the logos now. People want to see the people. They want to see, they want to talk to the person. They want to see, what does this person like and what does this person actually do on a daily basis. So to answer that question, definitely use your picture. Oh, she said no. Okay. Yeah, so for your business, you can use, huh?
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I think it also depends on what your business is called, right? Like if it's called the Notary Institution, the Notary Institution is not Shawnee's face. but people want to see your face in the posts, right? Like they want to see who you are in the posts, but your profile picture should be of your logo. But if your business name is something that is more your name, Autumn A. Arnett, Notary Public, right? Then it should be your face. So I think that depends a little bit on how you're calling your business, but definitely if you use your logo in your profile, still make sure people get to see your face occasionally in your posts.
Right. See who it is. Absolutely. Well, Lady Unique, I think that's all. That's all the questions we have, guys. We're gonna hop off. Thank you, Autumn, for joining us. Thank us for the information. I'll be connecting with you soon. Once when this is done. And everyone, y'all have a great night.
Good night.